Welcome to the ACC Panic Room alongside Lauren Brownlow, who's in Greensboro. I'm Joe Ovies, back in Raleigh. And I'm just going to say this out front, Lauren. I did not take much out of the North Carolina Notre Dame game. Yeah, Notre Dame was just completely discombobulated in the second half. North Carolina ran away with it. Throw it out, right? But these two games, the win against Virginia Tech and this loss against Florida State, this tells me something about this North Carolina squad. And they found themselves in two rock fights against teams, one that hadn't played for 12 days and was super hyped to come out, and they eventually wore them down with their own physicality. And then a Florida State team, which we all know is very, very good and could have won the league outright if it had not been a loss to Notre Dame. Another rock fight with them, and they found themselves there all the way at the end. I've been impressed with the way North Carolina closed out this ACC tournament outing.
Yeah, I feel like I'm starting to get a better sense of who they are in a way. Like it does take a while to adjust. Like Armando Bacot said this after the game. He says it takes a while to adjust to FSU's defense because they switch everything and nobody plays defense like them. And yeah, you could immediately see like you got a 7-footer at the top of the key guarding a point guard, and it's just fine.
Right.
It's Marco Cobravica. So like, yeah, it takes an adjustment for them. And look, they didn't shoot well in the first half of either game against FSU, but their own defense, I think, in both games, frankly, is what kept them in it. Combined with Florida State, I think, sort of maybe not executing as well as it could. But yeah, like they have been tough in this tournament in a way that I don't know that we've seen in back-to-back games, if that makes sense. So yeah, I've been impressed.
No, I think that's it. The tough, right? I know that's usually how Mike Krzyzewski talks about his team. He says they're real tough or whatever it is. But if you look at if you just looked at the box score for North Carolina, Florida State, you would think, all right, well, Florida State clearly was the better team here, and that there wasn't much of a contest. Except it really was. If UNC makes some more free throws, if they can get a little bit more out of the freshman guards against Florida State's length in the second half, maybe this goes a different way. And here's the other thing too. This was eerily similar to the other meeting between the Tar Heels and the Seminoles, where for whatever reason North Carolina could not get out of their own way, and Florida State couldn't quite put them away. And things started to get a little wobbly for the Seminoles after North Carolina took the lead. You're thinking, okay, are we seeing what we saw in Chapel Hill? I think you had mentioned this. I think you had mentioned this on Twitter, where there's a little bit of a crowd element that North Carolina was feeding off of as well. Florida State, though, this is another thing you tweeted, clearly was motivated to kind of make this happen. I think you mentioned after this game, you could hear them from courtside how hyped they were to have won this game and be in a championship game tomorrow against Georgia Tech.
Yeah, I think that they wanted to not repeat what happened in Chapel Hill too. I mean, I think that they were conscious of the fact that, oh, it's happening again. We should have been up by more again, and we're not.
Right.
And now they're coming back, and they've taken the lead, and now the crowd's in it. And I think that they realized, like, no, we can't. They wanted to really buckle down and make sure that it didn't happen again. And it was a team effort for them defensively to do just that. And they're just a really, really good defensive team, especially. And I mean, I think their offense has potential. Like it was really good earlier in the year, and I don't know quite what happened to it, but if they can get that going, like they can beat anybody because they are that athletic and that talented and that good defensively.
Now, I'm going to put up this stat from Jones Angel, who is the play-by-play voice for the Tar Heels. The stat is amazing. We kind of got an idea of what it was like earlier in the year, but now that the regular season and the ACC tournament is over, you see the stark difference. In the first half, they were minus 10. Second half, they were plus 160. We always knew the Tar Heels had an odd tendency to just not really know how to basketball in the first half, and there was always this attitude of, oh man, what did Roy Williams really tell them in halftime? Roy Williams would say over and over again, there wasn't anything he had to say. The team knew what they had to do. For whatever reason, it didn't really click until the second half. And when you see this number in just stark terms like this, it really encapsulates what this team was about all season long, still figuring it out all the way to the end.
Yeah, and one thing I think is interesting, and credit our buddy John Manuel for this, and he's a baseball guy, so I think this is an apt analogy. He said it about Caleb Love, but I think it applies to really all the freshmen, especially he and RJ Davis both, though, that he said Caleb Love was like a relief pitcher in that he has a very short memory. Like he could make a play, a bad play here, a bad play there, and he's still going to go right back out there and try to make another one. He does have a short memory in that way. So does RJ Davis. They don't lose confidence easily. They keep at it, and they just are kind of on to the next. And that has been kind of remarkable to see from freshmen. Yes, they're going to have some head scratchers from time to time, but they bounce back. Just, all right, I'm going to go attack the basket again. Here we go. Like they don't lose confidence and they don't shy away. It is pretty remarkable, really, when you think about it. Like it's pretty remarkable that those dudes just kind of, yeah, we're gonna try again. I'm gonna take the shot again. I'm gonna attack the basket again. I'm gonna attack FSU's 7-footers again. Like it may not always be the correct thing, but it's always something that they both do with confidence, and they don't seem to question themselves. And I mean, look, there are worse qualities to have if you're a freshman guard in the ACC, for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. A couple other things to get to before we say goodbye on the ACC Panic Room. I'm going to bring up this tweet from one of my favorite Florida State Twitter follows, Jeff, where he pointed out that UNC fans were more mad about this than they were in October. You'll remember that Florida State, a very bad Florida State football team, knocked off the Tar Heels during in the season, and the at issue is that Florida State got to this point on a triple bye because Duke had to leave the ACC tournament over a COVID positive test. Georgia Tech, their opponent in the final on Saturday, just got there because Virginia had to leave the ACC tournament because of a positive COVID test. And there's this like strange, like, man, Florida State could win this ACC tournament having played only 2 games. If North Carolina was going to do it, it's only 4 games. And I'm sitting here wondering, that's how most of these tournaments go when you have buys, or in the case of the ACC tournament with the expansion of 15 teams, double buys. What are we really doing here? Help me out.
It's exhausting, and it's in part exhausting because, and I get it, like fans are going to fan, it's whatever, and I get that it's frustrating, and I get that it can all feel unfair, and that this season can feel meaningless and skewed and weird in ways that we can't even begin to explain. I get it, okay? I understand. However, if you are a Carolina fan, you cannot honestly tell me that you would be saying like, well, the number 1 overall seed, they couldn't play. Even if we win this ACC championship, it has an asterisk on it. Like, stop. Stop it. Stop it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
If you were in FSU's position, you wouldn't be saying that because it's not anybody's fault, but it's not your I'm tired.
I think you just kind of hit the nail on the head there. It's nobody's fault. We all understood this was going to be a really weird, goofy ACC basketball season, just like it was in football. And that's why I think it's the most appropriate thing ever that Josh Pastner and his beat-up face mask are in the championship game. Honestly, I think it would be the pinnacle of his tenure at Georgia Tech if they just win this whole thing by no contest. So we'll see.
I mean, I had a Syracuse fan. I hope they were kidding. I hope they were, but nowadays I don't know. Say something along the lines of like, hey, with how they do with drug testing to validate a result. Like if they tested the Virginia player and he tested positive, like could that invalidate that result? And I'm just like, guys, okay, I need a minute.
Wow.
This has broken all of our brains.
Yeah, the pandemic. Look, it's been a year, Lauren. I mean, a year ago today, we were being sent home from the ACC tournament. So, but at least when we were sent home from the ACC tournament a year ago, the commissioner at the time, John Swofford, gave not just 1, but 2 media appearances to explain the thought process. He ended up having to change his initial announcement where he was on with Packer and Durham on the ACC network saying, oh, no, we're going to have this tournament without fans, only to have another press conference shortly thereafter where he answered questions from the media, and they eventually canceled the thing, and Florida State ends up winning. We have not seen that out of the new commissioner, Jim Phillips, who took over the ACC on February 3rd. Now, my understanding, I know Luke DeCock wrote about this in the News and Observer, there was a media blitz that was planned. I mean, full disclosure, we've put in a request to talk to Jim Phillips before the ACC tournament, and I was told that we were on a list. Okay, fine. I mean, we'll talk to Jim Phillips when we talk to Jim Phillips. But he hasn't really done much media. It's fine. He's kind of getting his bearings. But there's there's a bit of a disconnect where your plans for your media blitz the following week in between the ACC tournament and the NCAA tournament, I mean, that's nice that you want to do that. Good idea. But when there's a lot of unknown, a lot of uncertainty of what's going on after Duke had to go home and then Virginia Tech has to go home, and then you release a statement that doesn't exactly say that the game between Florida State and Carolina was going to happen.
No offense to him, but it really didn't say much of anything.
It didn't. No, I mean, why release a statement at all at that point? It was lacking, and I find this as a missed opportunity for the new commissioner to kind of help establish what his tenure is going to be like. Instead, it was more of the same from the regular season in the ACC, where you didn't quite know what their logic was. Different from football, where they were at least proactive at the end, where they said, hey, Notre Dame, Clemson, your seasons are over. We're going to shift some things around and we're going to make this happen. And I think the biggest issue I have with the way this all played out with the ACC tournament is that now Virginia is in a position where they really have to thread the needle to make the NCAA tournament. While the ACC could have been proactive with months to anticipate what could happen, that they should have moved the ACC tournament up. They should have been like the Atlantic 10. Give your tournament teams an opportunity to at least participate in the ACC tournament, and then give yourself 2 weeks to get things right. I don't know why they didn't do this. I mean, at least the Big Ten put everybody in Indianapolis, so the tournament teams didn't have to go anywhere when they were done with the Big Ten tournament. If you can't do that, you might as well give yourself an opportunity to get right, rather than what we're seeing with Virginia and a lot of uncertainty as to whether or not they'll be able to participate in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that all of this is being said with the benefit of hindsight either, but
no, it's actually, I'm glad you brought that up real quick. I'm glad you brought that up because it's not like we haven't been talking about this for months. We've been throwing stuff at the wall that would make so much more sense than let's just plow through like there's no pandemic. This is not benefit of hindsight. This is people saying, hey, maybe you should consider these things because you could run into this problem. And here we are.
And the other thing about it too is that, like, I think we can all agree now, based on what we more or less know about COVID, that it seems unlikely. It seems unlikely either case came from Greensboro. Yeah. However, it was not an insulated bubble here, so you never know what could happen here. And then all of a sudden, you got a team, players testing positive going into the NCAA tournament, or in that 48-hour period, whatever it is, and then you're done for the whole tournament for one. And then, like you said, though, for the other, it's like you don't have that week of sort of insulation. But it's certainly not on the fact that, like, it's being in Greensboro. The tournament itself has been fine. I think everybody's done fine since they've been here. But, I mean, you don't know what can happen. Anybody can get COVID at any time. We've seen that happen throughout the season. Like, this is
best laid plans.
This isn't that different than any other week, is sort of what I'm saying. Like, that teams might get it. And so if you're playing and testing and you don't have them bubbling, like, this could happen, and then they could miss the tournament. So I feel like they probably should have had a week off, and I don't know what the schools would have done with them. I guess they would have tried to bubble them in that time. Basically tell them, don't get COVID or we can't go to the tournament, and that's
it's important to note, too, that in order for you to go to the NCAA tournament, you have to have 7 consecutive days of negative tests. Now, the way the rules have been interpreted, Virginia, all they really need is 5 guys dressed to play in the NCAA tournament. And they have until, 11 o'clock tomorrow night to let the teams, let the NCAA know, all right, we're in this. And then obviously things get locked in on Tuesday ahead of the NCAA tournament. But this is just I get that the real commissioner of every college conference isn't the suits that get put on TV. It's the money. It's really Mickey Mouse that is the commissioner of these conferences. And it looks like rather than trying to get this done in a way that made more sense and give yourself flexibility, they were really tied into whatever windows were important for their league partners to get in. I still don't know why, if you knew there was going to be this tight window from a Saturday championship game to playing tournament games on a Friday night, and there's a 7-day window, what happens if you test positive coming out of your not so isolated bubble? It just seems like it wasn't all the way thought through. That's unfortunate. And look, I get that it's chivalrous to get the women to finish first, But you know what's better than that, Lauren? When the men and the women finished at the same time. And they had an opportunity to do that last week.
Wow.
We'll close on that.
I got nothing. I got
didn't think,
nothing for that.
Didn't think you would. It's going to wrap it up for this edition of the ACC Panic Room. We'll see you all for Selection Sunday. We'll see how many teams get in from the ACC. Bye.